Good morning, AP Langers. Here is today I'm going to be talking to you about my annotation that I did for the next text that we're going to be reading, Barack Obama's eulogy of John Lewis. Um, the first thing I want to do is show you my page because you see that hopefully you see that my page is completely covered because as I start to notice things or as thoughts pop into my head while I'm reading the text, I'm jotting those down because all of that will be important later when I write about the text. Okay, so the first thing is to look at the title. It says Barack Obama's eulogy of John Lewis. I circled the word eulogy, even though I know what a eulogy is. I circled it because it's important for me to remember that this is a eulogy because it has a very, very specific purpose. The purpose being, and I wrote that up here in the sky, is to revere John Lewis, but also inspire those to continue doing the work that Lewis did. And I say to inspire because with Barack Obama being a former president, he knew when he spoke that he was speaking to the people in the audience that day at the church, but he also knew that he was speaking to people who were going to read this transcript because one of the things that happens with presidential people is their documents are saved for posterity. So some of their things end up in museums and online um, uh, archives and things of that nature. So he knew that there was a wider audience for this piece. Okay, so the next thing is numbering. Numbering is something I need to point out because I left an ad in here by accident. So the first paragraph should start with James wrote. The second paragraph starts with it is a great honor. And then you see that those two sentences that say in an effort to discover which office chairs, I scratched all that out because there was an ad that I forgot to take out. The third paragraph starts with to those who have spoken. The fourth paragraph starts with now. This country is a constant work in progress. And the fifth paragraph is John Lewis, and so on. So you should end up with 7 paragraphs on this page. Okay, so up here in the sky, like I said, I have his purpose, and then over here, I wrote celebrating the life of a civil rights icon in a historic church because in his first two, in the opening of his speech, he mentions the fact that they are in Ebenezer Baptist Church. He mentions Dr. Martin Luther King in the opening of his speech because that ties into the exigence. Remember, I told you, think about the rhetorical situation when you start reading a text for analysis. So we know that out of purpose, exigence, and speaker, and I'm missing one, but we know that the most important in this instance is the topic that he's writing about because John Lewis is the person that he's talking about at his funeral. And exigence, which ties into exigence, right? Because exigence is the urgency. What made him have to write this? Well, John Lewis died and they were having a funeral for him. So exigence is of utmost importance. So quite honestly, I'm already thinking if I'm gonna write about this to do an analysis, I'm thinking about exigence as I go through. Like, what is he saying specifically on this particular occasion that he feels like this is the exact time that it needs to be said because he won't have this opportunity to say it in quite this way again. So up here I wrote, celebrating the life of a civil rights icon in a historic church also serves as a reminder that there's still work to do because that's something he continues to do all throughout this paragraph. And over here I wrote exigence greatly impacted the opening paragraph. So let's look at the second paragraph. So in the second paragraph, some things jumped out to me. His finest disciples jumped out to me because that's the wording that you think of from the Bible, right? We think about Jesus and his disciples, except in this instance we're talking about Dr. Martin Luther King and his disciples. So here Obama is portraying John Lewis as a great man. He's not just your regular ordinary man, even though that's what he was born in. He was a great man. He was a disciple, somebody who continued to do the work of Dr. King even after Dr. King had been killed. So I circled that and I wrote, implies that John Lewis was doing the work of King like Jesus' disciples. Another thing that I underlined was to produce a man of pure joy and unbreakable perseverance, because I think we have that juxtaposition of ideas there. We have that he had pure joy, but also that he was unbreakable. And I just think that's an interesting juxtaposition of ideas about one person. Okay, so drop down to paragraph 3. In paragraph 3, I noted all the people who are listed here, because that's pretty high up for Obama to include these people. So why is he including Presidents Bush and Clinton and Madam Speaker? Because again, think about it. We are we're here because John Lewis died. So why in the third paragraph are we talking about Bush and Clinton and Madam Speaker? Well, I wrote over here that he's addressing other important who who had spoken. It drives home the message that Lewis was an extraordinary American, because not everybody gets to have presidents and the Speaker of the House speaking at their funeral. So this drives home again his point about how important John Lewis was. Okay, now let's drop down to paragraph 4. Paragraph 4, I wrote a few things here. Now, this country is a constant work in progress. Now was important to me because it lets me know that the speaker is taking a turn. They are trying to let you know that they're taking a turn. So he set us up in the first 3 paragraphs. He set us up for what was to come later. Then we get to the 4th paragraph and we have this word now. So I circle it, highlight it, whatever, because that lets me know that there's about to be a turn in what he's talking about. So he said that this is a country, is a constant work in progress. Again, he's trying to drive home something, a message that he wants to be lasting, that's bigger than just John Lewis's funeral. So I tied that back to paragraph 2, because I said he again, um, he's saying something about the country, something that Obama has said before. This is not the first time we've heard Obama say this. And it's important that he says this. It ties into, when we think about purpose, it ties into he's trying to inspire the people that's there to know that there's still work to be done. If we accept the fact that our country is a work in progress, that means that there's always work to be done. And so just because John Lewis is dead doesn't mean that the work stops. So it says, we were born with instructions to form a more perfect union. Explicit in these words is the idea that we are imperfect. So see, he's kind of driving that point home. Imperfect. Why? Why here? Why now? Because he's setting you up for the kill. Because he needs you to take away from his speech that there's still work to be done. And so I need you to uh, also note a couple of other things. He said we were born with instructions to form a more perfect union. Where do we hear those words, to form a more perfect union? That's him alluding to the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. Okay, so we know the purpose of this paragraph. We know what he's trying to do in this paragraph, and we find our allusion. So that's an allusion that we have at work in that paragraph. Then go down to paragraph 5. That's when he starts to really start to talk about John Lewis. Up until this point, we knew it was coming, but we haven't heard any of the great stuff that John Lewis has done. We don't start to hear it until paragraph five. And even in paragraph five, let's see what we got. And I just circled this whole paragraph, and I say he's praising the work, the life of the man, which again ties back to what a eulogy is, right? But look at what we have. We said he was the first of the Freedom Riders, the head of the SNCC. He was the youngest speaker at the March on Washington. So he's listing these things that John Lewis was known for. Then we get to paragraph 6, and paragraph 6 is a continuation of paragraph 5. So if we want to think about how we would group these paragraphs together, I would definitely group paragraphs 1 through 3 together because he's setting us up for the greatness. Paragraph 4 is because where he takes that turn. And then on this page, paragraphs 5, 6, and 7, because they're all about John. They're all about John. 5 starts with all the things he did, his resume. 6 and 7 is how he got to the point to write that resume. So when you look at paragraph 6, the only thing I underlined there, because it's an uncanny detail that he mentions about him, is where he said he'd hide under the porch and make a break for the school bus when it showed up. Okay, so that was it for 6 for me. And in number 7, that last sentence where he said John Lewis was getting something inside his head, an idea he couldn't shake that took hold of him. So I underlined this sentence, and this is what I wrote. I wrote, repeating or paraphrasing something John Lewis most likely wrote about in his book or story he told himself. Because let's think about it. John Lewis was this great civil rights icon. He had given speeches himself. I'm pretty sure people had heard this story before. So that's why I wrote repeating or paraphrasing something that John Lewis had probably already said before. But again, Obama is using it for a specific purpose. So I wrote to inspire those listening to take up the work still left to do, like John Lewis did when King died. Because that's where, and if you look in paragraph 7, we have the mention of King again. This is the second mention of King, and we haven't left the first page yet. So obviously, there's a subtle message there by Obama that he wants us to be like John Lewis. John Lewis didn't stop the work when King died, and we shouldn't stop the work. The last thing I wrote on the front of this page is logos, logical thinking, line of reasoning, pathos, evoking emotional reaction, ethos, establishing expertise or credibility. And I just put that on there because I was thinking about it. I already knew I was going to make this video. And so I was thinking about, I wanted to make sure that I gave you this new wording to use as you are thinking about why a text is important, the purpose, the exigence, and the message that the writer is trying to develop. So that's all I wrote on the first page. But if you look at my second page, which I'm not going to go through it, I did the same thing. You see the colorful pens that I use so that my ideas won't run together. You see the highlighting and the underlining. So there's a mix of everything on this page. You don't look at my pages and just see highlighting. If you see highlighting, it's something important that I'm highlighting, but then I'm writing something next to it. What made me highlight it? Is it such a beautiful line? Is it a beautiful description? Is it relevant to the purpose? Is it relevant to the exigence? And you know, again, like I told you, exigence is weighing heavy on me as I read this, because I know that it was weighing heavy on Obama when he presented this speech. So the last thing I'm going to tell you is that you should have a total of 49 paragraphs, even after you take out that the one about testing office chairs, which we know had no place in here. So hopefully that helps. I hope it helps to see my thought process as I'm reading. I'm thinking, why? Why did he say it this specific way? Is he trying to appeal to the audience? Is this more for his message, or is this more because of the exigence? What's driving him as he is writing this? And so, um, also another thing I would think about with this, which will be important for you guys, is context. What's going on? This was published July 30th, 2020. So think about context. What's going on in the world in July of 2020? Think about all the protests. Think about all the police brutality that's going on. Is there some context to be found here where we can see the context is impacting his message? Not just exigence, but context. And again, think about the fact that this is a eulogy. And the point of a eulogy is to revere the person, but also to leave a message um, with the audience. Because think about it, you always have a eulogy in a church, right? You usually have a pastor or somebody who delivers a eulogy. And so they usually have that message mixed up in there. I think that's all. I think, I hope this is helpful. Um, I can certainly do this again if I need to, but I'm really hoping that you will be able to engage better with the text, and that when you send me your annotations next week, well, this week, because Sunday I guess starts the new week, um, then I'll see a lot of engagement with the text. It's Sunday morning, so we still have an extra day, but I'm gonna go ahead and upload the video so that when you do your annotations, hopefully I lit a match to get you inspired. I shall see you people later. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stop it.